That was the start.
That was
Sing the whole.
terrible, dude. We're back. We're back. Technically, he never even had that theme song when we through this timeline currently.
Yeah, he did.
No, he didn't.
Look in my eyes.
No, he has the Fire Burns theme song. We're talking Summer of Punk, 9 years later, essentially.
Is it 9 years later? Yeah, I guess
Yep,
so.
it is 9 years later. We are back. We are live. This is episode 75 of the Quarantine Chronicles, and this would be the not recap, like I guess a flashback episode of us giving our thoughts on the Summer of Punk.
So we'll start real quick with. Do you remember Capital Punishment? That was the pay-per-view before Money in the Bank.
Yep, R-Truth versus John Cena.
And the only reason John Cena won is because little Jimmy in the front row threw water in Truth's face. And I remember watching that, and a friend of the show, Frankie, aka WWE versus TNA NY, we were watching the show together on some stream or whatever. And he was like, "Oh, like, what do you think about like this show?" And I was like, "I remember this." I said, "I don't care because I'm going to the next show. So that's all that matters." Little did I know what that next show would turn into, the beast that it became. And it all starts, in my opinion, on June 20th, 2011, Monday Night Raw, with Punk coming out.
No.
What
June 13th. June 13th, 2011.
was
CM
that?
Punk beats John Cena in a non-title match.
Okay, I guess
No,
it
this is the
starts there.
start. No. This is the start.
I
But when
guess
Punk
it starts
Cena on
there.
Raw in a non-title match, no. This is 100% factual. This sets him up for a championship match at the pay-per-view because he declares he's the number one contender. So, yeah. So June 20th, Punk comes out. Mike, you still there?
Yeah, people forget that the GM was a laptop.
Yeah. We got the anonymous GM. We got Punk comes out, demands a WWE Championship match at Money in the Bank in his hometown in Chicago, and then Punk and the GM start going back and forth. This is when the more of the shoot style Punk was in effect, like pretty much this whole year, starting from I guess Punk was always shoot style, but I felt like it was way more heavy in 2011.
Yeah, he
And
cared less about
pretty
what
much
the people said.
From Nexus, that promo for Nexus, it was like the trickle effect. But Punk was still in Nexus. He was wearing that Nexus shirt, and the GM said it's going to be Punk versus Del Rio. Then it was like Punk versus Del Rio versus Ray for the number one contendership, and Punk pinned Del Rio. What do you think of that?
Well, you forgot to mention the Snow Angels while the GM was talking, or while Michael Cole was reading the GM email in the beginning of Raw, because that's one of those great gifts and great moments. And in this run of Punk, is he was just like, all right, well, will you talk? I'm gonna make Snow Angels, and he's just laying there doing the Snow Angels, which is awesome. But after Punk wins that match, honestly, like when he cut that promo saying that he was the number one contender, and that pretty much like I'm leaving on July 17th. Like, that's when my contract ends. At that
That
point,
chapter.
at that point, everything Punk said, any segment, every promo, every match was must-watch TV because you didn't know what he was going to say, you didn't know what was going to happen, because you wanted to know more about the fact that he was leaving on July 17th. So it was that point where everyone was like, all right, like what's going to happen next?
This was so the Raw Roulette, Raw in Vegas. It's like a Punk heavy show. So like we got Nexus and Shawn Michaels pretty much going back and forth.
The dream match that never happened, let me tell you.
I wrote down Punk pre-pipe bomb. Punk shoots on fans for cheering Shawn Michaels versus him. Shawn super kicks Otunga, and then what's up?
No, it's funny because like the fact that Otunga and McGillicuddy were tied to this like Punk storyline in a way is just so great because like it was almost like a second layer of it all because at that point, that was like a couple months after I met that my friend Tommy introduced me to Michael, who his uncle is David Otunga. I feel like I've said that, I've beaten that to death, that story. And I already at that point played what was the game at the time? Call of Duty, like Black Ops or something, Black Ops 2, with Michael and Tommy. And Michael McGillicuddy was one of those people that we played with. And so at that point, I was already like, the fact that they're attached to this is just hilarious. So when Otunga gets super kicked by Shawn Michaels, I mean that was just like that was a very high moment because of everything that I knew.
This is like when worlds collide for you. You got Punk, you got Shawn, you got Otunga.
I know.
Raw Roulette, Punk versus Kane. Pretty much Punk runs off, Kane wins via count out. That's it.
Oh, I do gotta say during
So,
the promo, like I was listening to the What Chance. I do not miss the What Chance. Don't miss the What Chance
okay.
whatsoever.
So the main event, Cena versus R-Truth in a tables match. Cena's about to get the FU on R-Truth or attitude adjustment. Punk runs out, pulls the table, distracts Cena, and R-Truth spears Cena through the table. And then the Punk pipe bomb.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much to talk about this.
Do you want me to I can recite it? John,
Everyone
as you're laying there, hopefully as uncomfortable as you can be, I want you to listen to me.
All right. Let's talk about the fact that Vince thought this was going to be a heel promo.
Oh, well, hold on, because when I was watching this, I watched it in a way that I never had before. And I can't believe I'm going to say this and write this day down as in the calendar books. I give credit to Vince and the crew because they cut the camera for once in their lives at the perfect times. When he said hi to Cole Cabana, boom, there it was, ready to capture that, hey Cole Cabana, how you doing? Hey, I'm breaking the fourth wall. He waves, same thing. And then they cut him off at the right time at the very end too. Like,
when you want to hear about this bully campaign, and then
yeah,
after, he never says it. Does he ever talk about it at the end?
he never, like, in the promo he never says it, but like years later he just says like, I was running out of things to say, so the fact that they cut me off at that time was perfect because he didn't know where he was going to go with that. So it's always like if Vince can do one thing right, it was cutting that off right there, and just like the cut.
He's on the ball.
And I remember at that time, like, the talk of the YouTube was,
Oh man, okay,
was it a
hold
work
on.
or a shoot?
When I watched that Punk promo back, and when he says I'm breaking the fourth wall, and rewatching all these segments now, Punk is like the Deadpool of WWE.
Oh,
Like,
definitely.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Deadpool's fun and cool, and he just like makes fun of all the characters, like Deadpool 2, like how Thanos and Cable are the same guy, and everything else, like all the random stuff that happens, and he
Mm-hmm.
always, it's like you're watching a superhero movie, but you're not watching. But he's like making fun of the superhero movie. It's like you're watching wrestling, but he's making fun of wrestling and talking
Yeah.
about real life.
And the guy that's like playing the character is just so great. And it's the same thing with Deadpool too. Ryan Reynolds is just phenomenal. So like it's just I mean that's honestly a perfect analogy.
It's very he's Punk in this summer of Punk is very. People forget how good it was. I feel like if you
Oh,
don't watch it, until you go rewatch it again. Because I
especially
feel like
in
the pipe bomb is so beaten to death that you're honestly at one point I'm like I'm tired of hearing this same thing. Like, okay, we get it,
hmm And
but
the
like
one thing the one thing with that is um I remember like I think that was the first moment in wrestling where social media really helped out because if you remember right after that they went out there and then right after that Michael Cole announced to the crowd that CM Punk has been suspended indefinitely, and those videos were posted on Twitter because they taped the 4th of July Raw that same night right after that promo. So everybody was tweeting about like what was happening, and that was the first like big social media moment. You know what I mean? Where spoilers were flying and people were talking about what happened, and it was really interesting, and it's crazy because they recorded this on the same night. Imagine if we had to wait an entire week to find out what happened next. You know what I mean?
yeah, I remember it because I read the spoilers and I was like, oh, Punk's not on, I could just rewatch the highlights later. Like I don't need to watch this Raw.
Yeah, exactly. Because that was the thing. I remember a lot of people were saying like, "Oh, like we're not gonna watch Raw because it's 4th of July. We want to be outside. Like it's recorded, so you can just know what happens. Punk's not on the show." And I remember like I was like, "Oh, that's a good point. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna do something." And then I ended up just watching it just because I wanted to, like go crazy with it and like I needed to watch it because at the time I was doing the road to Money in the Bank where every week I would like talk about the matches that pertain to Money in the Bank and I started that like when Punk was announced for the match and that was one of those things where like you made a good comparison with Deadpool. I'm gonna put myself over here with a comparison I thought of walking to the bathroom a few seconds ago. Everybody says that Barstool became Barstool because the Patriots like won so many championships. The Red Sox were the same way, the Bruins the same way, the Celtics, and that kind of like boosted them up. I think for me, the Summer of Punk in 2011 like really boosted me up with like YouTube because people were like, oh, like here's a new guy. What's he have to say? He's going to this show. Like this is like the biggest storyline of the year. We want to find out what's going on. And I just remember that was like, that really spun things into fruition for me because that was the start of it all. 2011 was the first like big year for me. So, if it wasn't for the storyline, who knows where I'd be.
What was I gonna say again? On that Raw, the only thing that happened is Punk suspended. Cena convinces Vince to bring back Punk, but if Cena loses, he's fired. Essentially, that's it.
Yeah, for a second, I actually thought like right as Raw ended, I was like, is he like actually out of the show? Like, what am I gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to the show like Punk, and then, like during this actual like when the actual show aired, a week later, um, it felt like it felt so like real that like Vince was saying like I don't want the title to go in like to another company's TV, and it was like weird because for a fact that like that's how he felt. You know what I mean? If it was a real situation like that, same with like Bret Hart, years prior. Um, I don't know. It was just it was a good promo. The Cena like and Vince stuff was really good, but Punk wasn't there, so what's the point kind of thing?
I also remember I was talking about I think of the Punk promo. I remember my friends who like watch wrestling that don't watch wrestling are asking about if this is real or not. And I'm like, it's a it's real, but it's scripted. And they're like, what? It's like they plan to do that.
Yeah.
So we have Punk's last Raw.
July 11th, 2011.
Um, Punk is back with a microphone. Do I have your attention now? What a famous line. Like that line has been used in countless promos.
Oh, I know. It's great.
Punk declares, "I am the best wrestler in the world." I feel like that's a noted thing.
Hmm.
And pretty much that's like the whole promo. And then we had the Punk Cena confrontation.
And when Cena's coming out, because Punk has the megaphone, and the funniest thing is like Punk is talking into the megaphone into the microphone, so Cena's music's playing, and Punk's just like, "Sir, I'm afraid your music is just too loud," and I lost it because that's one of those things like you just don't really think about. But when he said it, I was like, that's really good. Um, and then like I don't know, do you have anything about that? Because I think the main thing on that show is the contract negotiation at the end of the
Yeah.
show.
Contract signing is a big deal. This is when Punk does all the elaborate things, the ice cream bar, the plane, the cups. Like he wants
He's
it all.
he said like Vince said something and then a fan said what? And then Punk was like, he said don't push me. And it's one of those things relating back to you mentioning like Punk is like Deadpool, where it's like it's something like that where Punk is quick to pick it up and he's like, oh, someone said what? This is how I'm gonna respond. And I don't know, it's just like the what's the word called? The improvisation in him.
He's improving. He's quick. He's like
Yes.
he's fast on his feet essentially.
Do you think right now in 2020, CM Punk the character is upset that the ice cream bars turned into what they did this
Yes.
many years later?
Yeah. 100% because they made a friggin' shirt a year later that I bought that I still have.
I wish I would have bought that.
And I it's never come to fruition,
Mm-hmm. It's not the
Um,
same.
so Punk Vince, they go back and forth. Punk signs, Vince signs the contract. Cena comes out. Then they have the confrontation with the infamous, like, you're the New York Yankees. Cena punches Punk. Punk never signs a contract, rips it up, and then that's it.
So during like the Punk and the Vince thing, Punk like had a line about Vince not knowing what makes a superstar in 2011, and like that's just you know, like that's crazy to think about. That's when the Punk says that he's the voice of the voiceless. That's like a big thing later on. And then especially when like Paul Heyman like comes into play years later. And then the one thing I really picked up on was there was dueling chants of "We want ice cream" and "Colt Cabana." Like, like that was just amazing. And
All right.
I ended this Raw saying, why isn't Raw this good anymore? Right now we have like some segment with Becky Lynch, not Becky Lynch, with Bailey and Sasha Banks. I couldn't care any less about.
This is like the hot. This is hot. This is hot. This is
I
a
know. Why
hot
can't it be
angle.
this good?
Like it's not white hot, but it's like it's almost as white hot. Like it's like building and building and building. Like, and we're at Money in the Bank. And I want to say your
Well,
shirt story.
I was
I want.
gonna hold on. Let me mention something lastly about the Raw. So the last Raw before Money in the Bank was in Boston, and the one thing that I remember is because I was talking to them like at the time, like that was like when I first started talking to them, the Boston brothers, they went to that Raw, and I remember specifically after the show they had a video on Miguel's channel where they talked about the Raw, and Miguel kind of like interviewed them about what it was like at the Raw, how many Punk shirts there were. And honestly, that got me like that took me over the top for my excitement for Money in the Bank because I was like, this is such a big deal that, this big YouTuber, Freaking Yaya 88, is making a video with the Boston brothers who I talked to on Skype. So that was like one of those things where it's like, this is a huge, huge deal.
This is hot. So Mike's famous story of him going to the arena and getting the Nexus shirt over the brand new white best in the world T-shirt with the back saying a little fine detail in the back that no one else can get except if you were there that night. The 7/17/11, like essentially I was there shirt. But watching this whole build up, I understand why you got that Nexus shirt because all Punk was wearing that Nexus shirt. The Nexus shirt, the Nexus shirt, the Nexus shirt. It was all Nexus. So if you're there that night and you weren't thinking of getting the new shirt, you got the Nexus shirt instead because you wanted it so bad. But I don't know. That white shirt was like fire when he first came out with it.
And the funny thing about this Money in the Bank show that not a lot of people know about is the dark match. The only dark match was a tag team match with McGillicuddy and Otunga. I don't think they were the tag team champions, but they might have been the tag team champions. But that's neither here or there. I just remember marking out for Otunga because that was the first time that I saw him since knowing Michael. So at the time I was like, Otunga. Like I marked out. I filmed a little clip of them like coming out, and that was the night. Now here's something that's crazy to think about. That was the night the Nexus died. This really really hot storyline of 2010 that died with Cena and then got revitalized with CM Punk as the leader again. That was the night that this huge storyline of the Nexus died in Chicago, not Chicago, Rosemont, Illinois, in the Allstate Arena. That was the night it died because I think it was the next night on Raw. The story goes that Otunga and McGillicuddy walked into Vince's office and Vince said, "No mention of the Nexus. It's done. Get rid of your stuff. Like move, like carry on, move on, kind of thing." And
Um,
that was it.
that's wild because we talked about last time. It's like what a hot angle that they had and they killed. But I remember this pay per view. I remember like going to Walmart and looking at figures, and it was just like I saw the Nexus 2 packs, and I bought both of them because I was so excited for those
Really?
angles. And then I go home and I order the pay per view, and I was like, I told all my friends, I'm watching this pay per view. You guys come over and watch it, but I remember like I want to say 10 people came over and to watch
Wow.
this thing. Like it was wild, and they were just like watching for the sake of watching. I was like, all right, and like this was like one of the best pay per views of the year.
One
Like even
of.
without the main event.
One of.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan won the
Sorry.
Money in the Bank briefcase.
Definitely is the best pay-per-view of the year. Yeah. Bryan won the briefcase. Del Rio won the briefcase.
Mark Henry killed Big Show.
Christian retained the title.
Oh yeah. Remember when
Trying to break the table.
yeah.
Oh
That was
man.
big.
Overall, it was a great show. And then main event. Mike, you could take over this. You were there.
I mean, like I've said it before and I'll say it again. I mean, this is like one of the no, this is the best WWE match I've ever seen live. Um, I mean, there was just so much, and the like,
Is this
especially
your
like where I was sitting. What? What?
like nothing will top this match?
In the WWE, no, I can't think of
No,
anything
ever.
ever, ever.
Yeah.
Well, like ever
Wrestling in your wrestling
since
fan that went to all these shows.
All In. There's been some things that have surpassed this match for me. But if you include the build and everything that it meant and everything that it was about and what happened after the fact and the foreshadowing, there was so much foreshadowing in the Summer of Punk storyline. I mean, like up to that point, like no match has surpassed, you know, has surpassed that match. Like to me, like what the stuff that it means so much. You know, that's one of those things where it turned like everybody into like a punk fan. And as someone
Yeah.
who since 2007, like I mentioned all the time, since the moment that I heard at WrestleMania 23 that he was from Chicago, I was like, this guy's cool. He's from Chicago. Um, so I need to like follow his career. And through the Straight Edge
The next
Society stuff, you know.
game I became a Punk fan was that Survivor Series '06 when he was getting cheered, and I think it was in Philly over DX and I can't remember who else was on that team.
Oh yeah.
I
I
remember
remember
that because
that.
I watched that paper. And I was like, oh, this guy's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. Like he
Yeah.
was like, oh. So that was, and then I started watching ECW. Then I was like, I want him to become ECW champion, and it took like so long for him to become ECW champion because they kept
Mm-hmm.
giving to like Elijah Burke and I think Morrison. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I can't remember the exact person who they kept, but like Punk would never touch the title. It took him forever to touch the title. But
So
man, that
McMahon.
night after, oh, we got to talk about the pay per view,
So
right? The match.
McMahon
I'll
comes out.
say Laurinaitis debut in this match.
Is that his debut?
Yeah, because he
Yeah,
comes
I
out
guess
with
so.
Vince to ring the bell, and then
Yeah, I guess
Vince,
so.
then Cena punches Laurinaitis, and that ends to the finish.
He punches Laurinaitis. He gets out of the ring, or like he's out of the ring. He points at Vince like it's not gonna. Oh, by the way, a lot of people don't know this, but Cena did do the salute when he entered. They didn't show it on camera because like he did like a quick salute where he just put his hand up and threw it down real quick, and then the
Yeah.
camera cut to him. So they say that he didn't do the salute, but he did in fact do the salute. I can 100% confirm he did the salute. So yeah, so Cena like points at Vince and like it's not going down this way. Cena gets in the ring, Punk hits him, GTS 1 2 3. Everyone's going bananas. He goes, and like he's like pointing at Colt and everything, and he goes in the ring, and Vince is like, "What did I do?" Like in the crowd, we didn't know what was going to happen. We thought like there was going to be a screw job finish or something, like with Brett and Sean.
Rio comes out, starts running, gets kicked in the head.
And this whole time they were like clearing the aisle that I was in, because there was two aisles. There was the one that I was in, and then there was the one next to it that Punk ran up, and they were clearing the aisles. So when they were trying to clear the aisles, I was like, "What's gonna happen? Is The Rock gonna show up right there and distract Cena or something? Like, what's the big deal?" And then later I found out that it was because Punk was gonna run up one of those aisles. It was just like wherever it happened, like you know what I mean, like whatever was going to happen happened. So he just ran up that aisle, and
Punk
there's
runs out the door, jumps in a car, and goes home.
and puts the title in the fridge.
There you go. And that night was like hot on Twitter, YouTube. Like that was like like this was like when this is the peak of the angle essentially. Like this angle, like now you're at the not like you thought it was gonna go even higher, but essentially that was the peak. Like
Yeah,
it
100%
didn't
the
touch
peak.
after that. They didn't use it as a launching point.
Mm-mm.
They just kind of taper it off essentially because like
If you remember, he shows up at Comic Con at the
we didn't
Mattel
talk about the
booth.
shirt, dude. eBay $500 for that shirt that night. That's how hot
Oh
that
yeah,
angle
yeah,
is.
yeah. I remember I was like so like sad the next day. I was texting Michael. I was like, "Is there any way that you can like give me one of these shirts like whatever?" But yeah, that was wild. But yeah, Punk shows up at Comic Con.
No,
He's
no, you missed the whole thing. All right, well, I got to recap Raw, dude. So Punk's
what?
gone.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, all right, Punk's gone. We're never gonna. Vince is like, we're never saying his name again. WWE Championship tournament. A whole bunch of matches. It ends with Miz and Rey Mysterio. The main event, and Vince comes out and says this match has been postponed till next week. And I'm gonna fire Cena essentially. Vince is like, I can make. No, Vince says I can make a new John Cena, and I laughed. Because he's been
Yeah.
trying to make a new John Cena for 10 years with Roman Reigns, and it has failed. There's no one as big in pop culture as John Cena from like since he's been created to now. Like there's no bigger superstar that Vince has created since John Cena.
Hmm.
John Cena says, I will, like, he loves this. He'll do this forever. And he'll walk on someone else's television show and keep doing this, brother. I remember that was like a big pop.
Yeah.
Vince is about to fire Cena. Triple H comes out and tells Vince that the board of directors thinks Vince is crazy and pretty much says Triple H is firing you and now he's in charge.
Which is very ironic.
And Raw ends with them two crying. The night after Money in the Bank. This is your go home angle.
Go home.
Like this is like the main event, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there you go. And then Punk shows up at Comic Con.
Punk shows up at Comic Con. Punk shows up at AAW. Colt was like in a match. I think it was like a tag match with Gregory Iron. And if you don't know who Gregory Iron is, I don't know what he has, but he has some disease or something. I don't know exactly, so I don't want to I don't want to like say more. But if you know Gregory Iron, you know what I'm talking about. So Colt Cabana was like putting him over after the match that they had at AAW, and Colt is like, like I got a friend who, like he wants to say something, and it's Punk. Punk comes out, he cuts a promo, he puts over Gregory Iron, which by the way, Gregory Iron is one of like one of the best like wrestlers that I've seen. So the fact that like Punk put him over in 2011, like that's saying a lot. So that was a big thing.
Well,
Later, 2 years later, I found out that Punk or like AEW was like the shows that I would end up going to. I would go to that same building that Punk was at. So that was like a big thing. Um, you're saying?
Punk's Comic Con question was, when are you going to put Zack Ryder on television?
Oh, dude. Did you see in Boston when like the guy had the rider sign and Vince like pointed to it and kind of chuckled?
Yeah.
This was at the peak of the Z Trulong story too.
I think it take like yeah, 2011, 2012, and then it kind of started dying out after.
2011 was the big year though.
I feel like 20 I think going up to 28 was still pretty big. Like
20
it was
2011 was like when the fans were still making it a big deal, and then like 2012 going into WrestleMania and through WrestleMania was when WWE was like, all right, fine, we're gonna take this and we're gonna do something with it.
That's true. All right, so we're on Raw.
Raw,
Ray,
July 25th.
Ray beats Miz to win the title. It's the opening match on Raw. Triple H says this is good for business, and John Cena will get his rematch against Rey Mysterio in the main event. Cena wins the title. Yes.
Nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew what the song was playing. Nobody knew who was coming out. There was no graphics on the
Like
screen.
Mario 3, you knew this song. Living Color was playing. Cult of Personality was playing for 1 minute. And then Punk walks out best in the world t-shirt and all. The same shirt for Money in the Bank. And there it is. CM Punk's back. Holds up the title.
The iconic picture of him holding up the title. That's one of my favorite pictures, like in this entire like back and forth.
I noted after Raw, WWE Shop posted that shirt.
Oh,
WWE
dude.
Shop crashed.
Oh, dude.
WWE Shop crashed. That's how hot that t-shirt was.
You want to talk about crashes? When I saw that shirt go on Shop Zone, I was at the highest of highs. I was like, thank God they put up the shirts. For weeks, people were asking to put up the shirt. It wasn't just me. They wanted to see the shirt. I go to WWE Shop, Justin. I'm going bananas. I'm like to my brother, I'm like, do you want one of these shirts? Like, it's up. Finally, the shirt is up. I'm okay now. I don't have to worry about it. I go to the shirt. I click it. Oh, there it is. There's that sweet logo that years later I turn into a flag and get them to sign. I swipe over to the back of the shirt. It just says best in the world. No Chicago. No 11, 17, whatever. Like, oh man, I was devastated. I was like, oh. And you know what?
Point out the Bank poster, by the way, for that pay-per-view is Hornswoggle and Big Show, which should have been changed to CM. That's a travesty.
That's one of those things we don't talk about, because if I now want to get that chair, I saw that chair at a convention for $150, Justin, and I was like, if I like one day I will buy it. But the fact that it's Hornswoggle getting a book read from him, I know.
It's trash. But it's like that's the one of the worst pay-per-view posters of all time. I don't care what anyone says.
I can't even put that on my wall.
Like you can't even buy that time.
Like what's that event? You got Hornswoggle getting her book read to him by Big Show. Yeah, remember when Punk won the title and left? Yeah, I do. That's the poster. Yeah, good. Anyway, more importantly, we got the August 1st Raw, and Punk coming out and saying, I can't make it better by sitting on my couch in Chicago, which the foreshadowing once again. And Hunter comes out.
He's the voice of the voiceless, and he had to come back and make a change.
And the banter between Hunter and Punk, I mean, just give me 2 hours of them going back and forth, and like that's all.
There's my note. Punk in brackets. Triple H go back and forth bracket. Punk is Deadpool of wrestling bracket.
And I mean, here's the other thing. Triple H says that he signed Punk back, and when you think about it, that was the first signing that Triple H made while he was in charge. So all the NXT and Triple H is Thanos right now, and he's got his Kevin Owens, he's got his Kevin Steen, he's got his Adam Cole, he's got his Kyle O'Reilly, Red Dragon, Bobby Fish, he's got his Roderick Strong, he's got his Shinsuke Nakamura, he's like the list goes on and on. He's got so many Infinity Gauntlets, like he needed to get another house, like to put them on display. And Punk was number one. Punk was the first. So people forget.
This is pretty much setting up Punk Triple H, which will be the fall of Punk, which we'll talk about on another podcast.
We will?
Yeah, we'll do the fall of Punk.
You're going to make me sit through that and suffer?
Yep. We got to do it, dude. You have to watch we watch the highs, you got to watch the lows. So what did I put? Triple H comes out. Cena thinks he's gonna get stripped of the title because Triple H has this big announcement. Punk thinks he's gonna get stripped of the title. Triple H says Cena Punk for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. And they do a pose off. They do a pose off, and like every time they lift the title, their music plays. Very odd.
And then the next week, August 8th, the go home to SummerSlam. They were going back and forth, and Punk plays a video from The Rock's Facebook page.
Oh, man. This was a big pot, because I remember at the time when this video came out, like I said, the angle was still hot. Punk was hot. Like, this was like, we're going to SummerSlam, and then now you intertwine The Rock into the storyline, too. So, like, this was, like, fire.
And, like, here's the thing. Like, I was watching this promo from The Rock. I was skipping through because I really didn't care. Why didn't we get The Rock versus Cena versus Punk, like main event of WrestleMania? Forget the once in a lifetime crap. We know what happened. They had a match the next year. Like, just you know what I
They
mean? Like,
they definitely should have done the triple threat match to preserve the once in a lifetime aspect. And Punk could have been the main event at 29, and it would have been a different main event. And if you did the elimination style and eliminate Punk, it would have been fine.
it was for the title too.
Yeah.
At that point. Oh man, I hate. God.
Because like, all right, if Cena beat Punk and then beat Dwayne or The Rock, like he would be like, "Oh, I am the undisputed WWE champion because
Why
I
didn't they?
beat both these guys in one night."
Why didn't they unify the titles at SummerSlam and then bring out a new title? Like, you can go back
Oh,
to the old one, or
oh no, because remember SmackDown has a title, and then they unified those two titles at the TLC in 2013.
we don't have to talk about it anyway.
All right, so us booking WWE better than WWE, but whatever, it's fine.
They cut to a shot.
And, I
Wait,
don't know, dude.
they cut
Whatever.
they cut to a shot of someone in the crowd, and he was in a camo morph suit, and he had a sign that said "You can't see me." And honestly, he was ahead of his time because nowadays people are always like, "Oh, John Cena, like where'd he go? Like he's gone." It's like he's not invisible. You just can't see him. Like, you know what I mean? It's turned into such a big thing, and that guy was ahead of his time. Shout out to that guy. Anyway,
So Punk says to Rock's video, they're not saying Cena sucks, they're saying CM Punk. And then Cena does his shoot on his own character, talking about how he's a modern day Hulk Hogan. He put the ear, like Hogan does the ear thing. Now he just moved his hand to his face. He makes fun of the internet marks with the 5 moves of doom and his heel persona. That popped me pretty good. Cena says he has Punk ice cream bars. I don't know what that means, but I got mad. Punk shoots on Laurinaitis for firing people on that Friday. Chris Masters, Vladimir Kozlov, and Harry Smith. So then Laurinaitis, Punk and Cena face off. Laurinaitis gets in between. Punk kicks Laurinaitis in the head. Triple H gets in between those two. And then Cena hits Punk, and then shoves Triple H. I don't remember when Triple H gets added as a referee.
I don't either, but that doesn't matter.
Was it like on Twitter or something?
It might have been like earlier in the SummerSlam.
Oh, because like they don't talk about it at all.
Yeah, or maybe it was on SmackDown. I don't know.
Which is odd because it's a Raw storyline. But all right. So
SummerSlam.
Talk about SummerSlam. This is hype. Now I got everyone over. We just had Money in the Bank. All right, Punk versus Cena 2. Punk Cena 1 was rated 5 stars. People
across
are
the board.
This angle is hot upon like white hot, dude.
So
like, it is.
Triple
H. There's no way WWE let's set the premise where there's no way WWE could mess this up, right?
Triple H is obviously the ref, as we said. Match goes on. CM Punk is going for the pin. Cena puts his foot on the rope. Obviously, Triple H can't see it. He's probably blind. Punk wins. They play his music. CM Punk is your champion. SummerSlam ends. Thanks for watching the podcast, and we'll talk to you again after a while.
So we got our boys. We got Miguel. We got Breach. We got Luke. Kevin Nash comes out, and all I hear in the back of my head, he dyed his fucking hair, Luke. And Kevin Nash comes down, clotheslines Punk. Del Rio comes out, cashes in the title, and Miguel's marking out like bananas. And that is the end to the summer of Punk. Mike, are you there?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said because I turned the show off after Punk won.
You didn't pay $50 to turn the show off, unless you streamed it. I don't know what you did.
I turned the show off after Punk won. I don't know anything that happened after that. I don't know what you just said there. That was just gibberish. And then the next time on Raw, we had CM Punk talking about a text about Kevin Nash and his sister.
Oh, that's our next podcast.
There's no. Don't make me sit through this storyline where I have to watch old man Kevin Nash
will do this podcast with someone else. Like, this is a must. This is the fall of CM Punk. This is essentially the redemption tour of Punk because it goes downhill, and then he wins the title of Survivor Series. That's the end of fall of Punk. We're doing this, Mike. This is your favorite.
It was so good.
Okay, I like to have a little rant ski. I know you do. Kevin Nash, there was no need, and we'll review that after. Del Rio did not need a cash in at that moment. He just won Money in the Bank. They could have easily teased that for longer and longer, where Punk would just kept getting away from him. And yeah,
here's the thing.
And building the Triple H, how that's going to end? No.
So that was in what, August? That was August.
Yeah. August.
Okay, you got September, October, 2 months, and then November he wins it back. And then you know what happens that?
Yeah.
He goes on his 434-day title reign. And you know what happens at the end of that? Stupid Rock comes back and he steals it from me. I'm sitting there on Skype with me, Tommy, Ali Rahman, who is like might be dead, I don't know where he is, and Michael Linder. And we're watching this. And
this is a great
happens.
Group.
And I think Ali's crying. I'm not sure what to do with myself. I think Chris was there too. The Rock steals it from me. He comes into the TV.
Almost went to Arizona.
He rips my heart out through my CM Punk shirt that I just bought. He gets blood all over the red, all over the white, and he's like dancing on. He's dancing all over my grave.
Yeah, by the way, even though Punk loses, I agree. I think the Elimination Chamber match is better than the Royal Rumble match.
You know, right before, I have a bad problem with my favorite wrestlers losing their championship to an old timer right before WrestleMania. First CM Punk, then Kevin Owens. This is not okay. WWE stinks.
Who's your other favorite wrestler?
Watch New Japan. I don't know, Shawn Michaels. That probably happened to Shawn Michaels once or twice. I don't know. I don't remember.
Shawn Michaels won the title at Survivor Series and lost it 1 month later to Triple H in a 2 out of 3 falls. 3 stages of hell match.
Maybe this company would be better after Vince McMahon's dead, but it's going to be taken over by his idiotic daughter and his doofus son-in-law and the rest of his stupid family.
Fine, dude. It'll be fine. NXT's fine. We watched NXT yesterday. It was fine.
Let me tell you a personal story.
And then there's the end of the podcast. Anyways, I'll drag Mike through the friggin' whatever to get him to watch the Fall of Punk so he can watch his boy win the title back again. And that's the end of the podcast today. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you again after a while. Yeah.